Welcome to Rachel Talks Technique, the show where we dig into the BalletBeFit method. Rachel Talks Technique brings you learnings, techniques, and experiences from special guests. Our passion is to help you pursue yours. Here's your host, Rachel Withers.
Hi guys, and welcome to BalletBeFit's live stream, and welcome to my series Rachel Talks Technique. This is episode 2, class planning, where we will dive into various topics surrounding planning a BalletBeFit class, or actually a group exercise class. I'm Rachel Withers. I'm the founder and CEO of BalletBeFit, and just a massive thanks for joining us today. This series will dive into all things techniques, really from my learnings and also from the learnings of my special guests. So thank you so much for being here. At BalletBeFit, it really is our passion to pursue yours, and it's our mission to help ladies and gentlemen to turn their passion for ballet and fitness into a profitable business. And it's our passion to build a BalletBeFit community, a BalletBeFit family, where we can add value to people's lives and really make a difference and make a contribution. So it'd be really great if you could say hello in the chat box and just let me know why you've chosen to join us tonight, and tell me what you love about ballet, dance and fitness. So please like, share and follow. It'd be really great to hear from you. So welcome to tonight's live stream. Okay, so let's get started with talking about class planning. We're going to be talking about how to effectively and efficiently plan classes, and I'll be sharing tips on how to mix your exercises and your classes and really adapt exercises. So please really do say hi in the chat box. It's really great to hear from you, and please say hello. Tell me why you're here. Tell me what you love about ballet, what you love about fitness. It's really good to know who I'm talking to. So let me just say hello again to the viewers who have just joined us and are here right now. I'm just going to say I'm Rachel Withers. I'm from BalletBeFit, and what's happening right now is we're on BalletBeFit's live stream, and this is the series Rachel Talks Technique. This is episode 2, class planning. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be talking about how to adapt exercises, how to plan your classes so that you actually spend more time teaching and not all of your time planning your classes. And I'm going to be introducing 2 guests tonight. I'm going to be introducing Alison and Adele, and they are BalletBeFit instructors, and they're going to just share their experiences with how they plan their classes. So what I'm going to do now is I'd really love to see who's here. Please say hello. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get straight into the training now and straight into talking about class planning. So I'm now going to share my screen with you. So just bear with me 1 second while I share screens. Okay, so here we go. So I hope that you can see that. If you can just type in a yes or a no if you can't, but hi, and let's crack on with this then. So what we're going to talk about is, first of all, is the structure of a BalletBeFit class. And what that structure is, it is basically a warm-up, and it is main content, and it is cool down. But what we do at BalletBeFit is we actually start with posture and alignment before we really even get into the warm-up, because what that does is it actually really enables your clients, your participants, to be really focused on their posture and their alignment, and to really think about that throughout the classes. So when you're planning a class, it's really important to think, let's start with that posture, let's focus on that alignment, and then develop that into the warm-up. Then that can move into the main content, and then obviously you can then finish with your cool down and your stretch. And what you really need to consider when you're planning your classes is you need to think about any adaptations that you might need to do for your clients, such as if they're older adults or they're juniors or they have a particular injury. And as you're obviously onboarding your clients and you're planning your classes, that's something that you need to consider, so that when you're planning, you can think about those adaptations that you may need to do. For example, if you've got older adults and you're going into the floor work, you might consider going into them having the work being seated, so that rather being on the floor, they're actually doing the core work seated. So these are all the things that you need to consider when you're planning your class. And if there's any doubts in terms of the effect that an exercise may have on an injury, it's really important that you ask your participants to seek medical advice. So that's really important for you to make sure that you consider with your class planning. And you really need to think about your clients' goals and objectives. So maybe perhaps that they're really thinking about they want to be, working on toning their core, strengthening the core, or perhaps they have weak upper body. So class might be focused on that. So when you're planning your classes, think about the participants you've got in those classes and think about what is the objective of that class? What are you going to really focus on, so that you can actually really help your participants get something out of the class. So what I'm going to do is, I've just really gone through the basic structure of a BalletBeFit class, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through some tips that really will help make class planning a little easier and really less time consuming. And this is for if you are doing any kind of fitness group exercise class. It doesn't just have to be associated with a BalletBeFit class. It's just things that you can really do to really help your class planning. And one of those first things to do is really think of making a library. So my first tip is to keep a library, because back in my day, what we did is we had a binder and it was full of all the choreography and the notes and the class plans, and we were jotting it down and it was all in our notebooks. But it can actually be quite difficult when you refer back to actually remember what you've done. And these days you can easily put all your notes on a tablet or a phone. But as I say, it can actually be quite confusing when you look back on old choreography. So what I found, and what I really advise my BalletBeFit instructors to do, is create a video library. And then what they can do is they can reference those videos to their lesson plans, their class plans. And you can really do that so easily by using a phone, an iPhone, an iPad to record your choreography and your exercises. And what I tend to do is I tend to store them on an external hard drive. So obviously you're not really using loads of memory up on your computer or on your phone. But what you can also do if you don't have an external hard drive is you can use either Google Drive or Dropbox. And it really does, by recording your choreography, recording your exercises, it makes it so much easier to refer back. And if you've got it on some form of cloud storage, or as I say, Google or Dropbox, then you can actually access that really easily from any other device. So I recommend that. And then what you do is you create a library of those videos, and then you reference them to. And what we do is we have a class plan, a structured class plan. You can reference that video to that particular class plan. And that is really, I think, a great tip to effectively and quickly go through your class planning and pull what you need back. Then what I suggest that you do is, my next tip is really to mix it up. You don't need to create an entire new class to make your classes feel fresh and new. You can really make yesterday's class new and exciting just with a few quick changes. What you can do is you can flip the order of your exercises. So For example, did the order of your exercises go from lower body to upper body? So how about you go from upper body to lower body? And just by doing that and rearranging the order, that will really make the class feel fresh and new. So you don't have to choreograph a whole new set of exercises at all. You just need to kind of flip them round and really, really mix it up. And also, doing songs in the same order, in a certain order every time, can really make your students know exactly what's coming up next. So change that up too. There is really an element of surprise there that will really keep your class participants on their toes and totally engaged. And it really only takes a few minutes to mix it up. So by changing the order of your exercises, by just changing your music order, your playlist order, and that can really keep your participants on their toes, and it will make the class feel completely fresh and new. And so what I also do, as I said, is you can go through your library of lesson plans and you can create a new class just by going through your library of the lesson plans that you've got and picking one exercise from a previous lesson plan and one from another, and just really mixing that up as well, so that you're not having to reinvent new exercises. You're just taking from one that a class plan that you devised, say 4 months ago, and then taking one from a class plan that you devised a month ago, and just really mixing it up. So my next tip is, mix it up, and that will really help to keep your class very, very fresh. And then the next thing that you can do is you can also add a prop. And this works really great for you in BalletBeFit classes. You can simply really add a piece of equipment you're using and you can perform the same exercise. For example, if you perform a series of exercises at the bar, then you could do those exact same exercises using a small hand weight or ankle weights or even a resistance band. And by doing that, you've just made the exercise different. So what I recommend is add a prop to some of those exercises. And what I've also done as well is when I've done a series of exercises at the bar, I've also then taken them into the center. So that actually creates a completely different element too. So you can do a dozen things with the same exercise by adding a prop. So hand weights, resistance bands, taking the bar exercise into the center, and really doing ankle weights as well. You can really create a different exercise using the same exercises. So that's something that I would recommend to do too. So that's another tip there, is add a prop. Does anybody have any questions at this stage? It's great to see you all on here. If you've got any questions throughout, please just say hi and feel free to ask, and I'll try and answer the questions as we go through. So it's great to have you all on here. Okay, so the next tip that I have for you tonight is play with your playlists. Now, doing different playlists and making it fresh is really important, and it makes it current. So if you keep playing the same playlist week after week, your participants, they really are going to get bored, and they are actually going to switch off because the classes are going to feel really stale. So what I have found helpful for my BalletBeFit classes is to always have one new song on my playlist. And even if, it's as simple as a new warm-up or a cool down, my clients know that there's always something else and something new to look forward to. So you can use the same choreography, you're just using a different song, and that works really well, and it just keeps the class really, really fresh. And it does actually work particularly well for warm-ups with a limited choreography. So if you're doing a similar warm-up each week or 3 times a week, just to change it with a new song will really just keep it completely current. And listen to what music's current at that, at the moment as well. And that will really keep things very fresh and exciting. And as I said earlier, don't play songs in a particular order. Really shake it up, move it around, play with your playlists. And as I say, always add in new songs. And what is a really good tip here is you can go to a site called YesGo, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's an app, and what that actually allows you to do, you can actually create really quickly a new mix for a class. But also what you can do is you can actually search and for a song by beats per minute too. So it's a fantastic app, and it's called YesGo, and it is so quick and easy to use, and it really enables you to make a really quick, nice, fresh playlist. So I love that app, and I would really recommend it. If the team could just kind of put that in the chat box, that would be great. It's called YesGo Music, and it's, as I say, it's absolutely fantastic for really adjusting. And yes, actually what you can do as well is if you've got a particular exercise, you can actually adjust the tempo too of the music. So say you've got a really slow cool down that you're doing, and there's one particular song that you really like. With YesGo, you can actually reduce the tempo of that, so you can really slow it down. So you can really use that app to create a fantastic playlist. Yes, Joanna, it's YesGo, but it's got a capital G, so it's yes with a capital G and go, and it's all one word. So it's a really good app to use. So we've now got the link on there for you guys as well. So that is something that I would really recommend for you. Now, the next thing that you can do is you can play with tempo. So you can actually change and vary the speed of your exercises. And what this does is it changes the stresses actually placed on the muscles and can completely change the feel of an exercise. Let me say, for example, you could slow down a plie squat. You could do this by doing a slower tempo. So you could go on the way down, you could go 2 counts down, and then you could do 2 counts up. And then what you could do is you could mix it up. So it's 4 counts down, and then the 2 counts are up. And then what you could do is you could take it to 5 counts down and then back up for 1, and then perhaps you might want to put a rise in for the other 2 to make it an 8 count phrase. But by doing that, you're mixing up that plie squat with within the class planning. So you're just changing it. So it's 1, 2, up, 2, down, 2, up, 2, and then down for 4 and up for 2, down for 4 and up for 2, and then down for 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 1, rise up 2, and down. And by doing that, you're changing the tempo, but you're doing exactly the same movement. And by doing this, it will change the feel of the movement, of the exercise. And if you go really slow, and perhaps actually you want to hold it, the position in the plie squat, you are really going to focus, for example, on that exercise. You'd be focusing really on the glutes and the quadriceps. And by doing this, you are being really creative with your phrasing. You're being really creative with the planning that you're doing within your classes, but also you're being really creative in how you're bringing more stimulation to the body and the muscles. And by doing that, without actually changing the movement or the actual exercise, it will have a really good impact on the muscle groups for your participants, and they're really going to see a difference. So I really kind of hope that gives you some great ideas in terms of how you can adapt and change your exercises. If anybody has any questions, that would be really good to hear. Just keep putting them in the chat box. It's really important to think about your tempo of the movements. So as I said about the plie squat, think about if you're doing a port de bras, you might want to really slow that down, so you're actually getting your clients to feel the movement, and so that you're taking a port de bras and an arm exercise, and you're just changing the flow, you're changing the tempo, and it will really change the dynamics of your class. So if anybody's got any questions, it would be great to hear from them. Hi there. Hi. So keep popping those questions in. Right, so what I've been doing is I have been talking about planning a class, but what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to introduce you. I'm going to introduce you to Alison, and Alison has been doing, I'll just stop before I do that. I'll just stop sharing this screen with you. Just bear with me. Stop screen. There you go. So you can hopefully now see me. I'm going to introduce Alison, and Alison is one of our BalletBeFit instructors, and I'm just going to really have a chat with her about her experiences with class planning and her experiences with BalletBeFit. So just bear with me while I get Alison onto the stream. Hi, Alison. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. We can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Hi. That's good. So, Alison, obviously we've just been talking about class planning. What sort of tips would you give everybody, and what have you experienced when you've been taking your BalletBeFit classes, your group exercise classes? What kind of tips would you like to kind of offer?
Well, what I usually do is I usually have sort of a routine that I keep for sort of 6 weeks. And in that, I keep the music fresh. So I tend to go for music that my participants like as well. So if they're no studio participants that I know, I get to know what sort of music they like, and I try and include that in the playlist with a few modern tracks. I keep a similar routine for sort of 6 weeks with the music, and then after that I change it, which they like. They don't like it if they have the same routine for too long. I also vary the routines with speed. So we might start off when we first do a routine with just the basic exercises, but then over the course of the 6 weeks, we play with the speed to speed it up, slow it down, until it makes it harder. And then when we change the routine again, they've got different routines in different exercises, in a different order of exercises.
Yeah.
Therefore, they think it's harder, and it's just increasing the intensity and increasing and decreasing the speed to make it harder as we go through the 6 weeks, and then it's fresh again when we change the routines.
Yeah, so as we've been saying, you work on changing tempo to create more stress on particular muscles, and your clients really feel the difference and obviously gain the benefits there.
The thing that I tend to change on a weekly basis is if we do floor work. I don't always work the same floor work each week, so you get a range of different muscle groups over the course of a week, so they never know really what floor work we're going to do. But then I do have some classes I don't do floor work. I have a BalletBeFit light class, which tends to be an older participant, and we don't do floor work in that. What we do is we do a few different dances, so I might put a different order of dance tracks in each week. So they have a few favourites, and then we tend to put a new one in there every now and again.
Okay, and how have you, obviously it's been kind of really crazy times, how have you dealt with delivery of your classes? Because I know obviously you've gone virtual, you've gone online, you're delivering online classes. How have you found that? And if you could just sort of share the differences there in terms of how you've planned your classes and to a certain extent how you've delivered them.
Yeah, very steep learning curve, of course. Until lockdown, I've not delivered anything online. The difference is, first was the music, because the music licensing is different online. You can't just use music that you would use in the studio. So around that, I've bought in music. So I've bought Pure Energy. They do arrange what is suitable for online. So that's, again, you can buy that for with the set beats per minute. So you're not having to scramble around for different beats per minute. So I've used quite a lot of that in the time. And also there's different websites that you can go on where the music licensing is, where they've got music free, license free music.
Royalty free music. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've just got to basically, sometimes you've just got to put a link on your page to say whose music it is. So that's been the main thing. Also the insurance side of things, because you've got to be very careful with the insurance, because not all insurers insure you for online, and some insurers insure you for live online, but they don't insure you for video. So you really need to check your insurance, and also you have to say a disclaimer each time you do the class, because it's very different, because sometimes you don't know your participants, which you always tend to get to know your participants in the studio when you have a par queue, but you don't have that online. Also, you've got to consider the environment that the participants are working in. So tell them that they need something on their feet, and what sort of floor they're working on, and also that they don't knock into anything. I've had to adapt a lot of my routines to... Oh, I don't know if you can hear me still. I've had to adapt a lot to do in a small space, because you're fitting into a screen rather than into a studio, and be aware of your surroundings, because obviously they can see what's behind you, so it needs to look tidy and it needs to look professional.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really difficult, because you've got to think about kind of where you're placing your camera as well, haven't you? Because you've got to make sure that they can see as much of your body parts as possible. And that can be quite hard to do with Yeah,
it is tricky, because they also need to see your feet. That's the thing. And when you've got your feet showing, you don't need to be cutting your head off. So you've got to be very careful, particularly pliés, because obviously you're rising, so they can't see your arms sometimes when you do pliés. So you've got to be very, very careful with your camera placement, and have a few goes at setting up and get a place where your laptop or your computer, whatever it is you're using, your camera shows you in the right place, because it is hard. And also going from standing to floor work, that can also be different as well, because what you can see standing, you might be fine standing, but when you get onto the floor, you're just a tiny speck on the floor. So camera placement is really, really important. Very, very different teaching online to teaching in studio. Very different.
Yeah. Do you find you go slower with your delivery on your virtual classes?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I do go slower, and I think I do put more explanation in, because I can't see mistakes, or if I'm on Zoom I can, but you can't see mistakes as easily, so I tend to go a bit more overboard with the technique, so it is slower. Definitely. More time spent explaining so that people get it right, and exaggeration of your own body, making sure you're in the right position and things. You really sort of exaggerate that how you need to stand and where your body weight should be, because it's not as obvious when you're not in person.
No, absolutely, because that's where I think when we've been talking about the class planning here, is that if you've got an exercise, say we are doing the plie, say we are doing the plie squat, if you can keep it still more in one position, and you're changing the tempo, and you're changing so you might be doing some pulses in the plie, or as we said, as I was saying earlier, changing the counts. That is easier for someone to follow on a virtual class, because you're not putting a lot of tricky choreography in there in the same way, and it's focusing on the technique. They're definitely going to feel the burn just as they would definitely in studio, but you're not having it, because that's what I found when delivering a virtual class, is you've really got to think about making the choreography a little bit more straightforward, and making sure it's formatted in a way that visually they can get, because we've got to imagine as well that they might be looking through a phone, for example, so they can't quite see you as much, and the phone is at a certain angle and everything. So it is quite important to simplify the moves, but mix it up with tempo and the dynamics of the exercise, really.
Also, I think as well, because you don't know your participants, you don't always know who they are, you tend to be slower and offering more alternatives than you maybe would if you normal class, because they're you're not sure on their ability, so you don't want to underwork them, you don't want to overwork them either. So I tend to, if I'm slowing an exercise down, I do remind them that they don't have to do it as slow as me. They can speed it up to make it easier. So that's something that I might not necessarily do in one of my normal classes where I know my participants. I would know their abilities and I could judge from when I'm delivering the class as to whether it's at their fitness capability or not. So that's the main difference, I would say, is just your delivery and your explanation has to be to all levels, because you don't know those participants.
No, you don't know the same. And what I'm going to do now, thank you, Alison, please obviously stay where you are. I'm going to bring Adele. Adele's just joining us now, and Adele's another BalletBeFit instructor. I'm going to just bring Adele on too, so we can continue really just sort of asking Adele how she also plans the classes, and just seeing how, you know, it's good to hear another point of view as well. So just bear with me while I just add Adele in. Hi, Adele.
Hi, how are you?
We're good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Hi, Alison. Nice to see
you.
I was listening to your conversation then, and I completely agree with so much of what you've just been saying. Having taught lots of virtual and in studio classes, it really resonates so much with some of the things you were saying about how all of a sudden you have no head when you're standing up, and then the next minute you have no feet. So I know you have to really play around with the position, don't you, of your camera and your mat and then your bar, and it's just fascinating. It's been a really interesting learning curve, I think, for many of us over the last few weeks, I would say.
Yes, and I think we're beginning to it has been a learning curve, but I think now that the participants, our clients, are more comfortable using the tech as well. I think you're getting more engagement in your virtual classes. I think at first the tech alone was something new to so many people that are used to an in-studio class. Then they've got to think, oh, I've got this link. What do I do with this link that suddenly arrived? And I think at first it felt, I know some of my participants felt like it was a little bit of an intrusion in their own surroundings, joining into a virtual online class. But I actually think now it's become, it's the norm, isn't it? So I think
absolutely,
as the more, more confident with that. I mean, Adele, for yourself, what tips would you sort of say for whether that's an in-studio or a virtual class in terms of class planning? What tips, would you like to share with who's listening tonight?
Yeah, I think everything obviously that you both just been discussing previously, I found that tips for me say absolutely make sure that you have your space ready to go. And I was listening to how you were saying about having nothing in the way that you can trip over. I've taught a few classes where people are extending their legs and their feet getting stuck underneath a bed or a cupboard. So making sure you have space, that you do a little practice before you go ahead and come into the class. And I think for class planning, from my perspective, from an instructor's point of view, is knowing that they're going to have limited amount of space compared to how they would in the studio, and also slightly different equipment too. So depending on whether if they may have been in a studio where they had either the portable bars they could use or they had fixed bars at the wall, knowing now that a lot of people won't have that, they'll have a chair back to use, or they'll have a fireplace or a low windowsill. I've been fortunate that I've bought my portable bar from the studio I teach in, but sometimes when I'm moving from one side to the other, to make it flow better, I've used my kitchen surface, and it's a slightly different height. Yeah, so all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, I can't rest my arms here, I have to change my position. So it's making sure that whatever you're using as your bar prop is stable. when I first started teaching virtually, I did have to remind a few people, don't have a chair that has wheels, please, because I've seen a couple of incidences where you're asking, you explain that you rest your hands lightly on the bar. It's like your dance partner. It's not there to support you. It's there to guide you so you feel safe. And you have to explain even more. Please don't push anything that is likely to move, because it can have slight implications on where you end up in the space you're in. So it's just being mindful of what you're using as your prop or your bar. And yeah, just being, as you were saying, very aware of the space around you. So when I plan my virtual classes, which obviously we've been doing for quite a while, it's knowing that the moves that I add in, they're going to be fluid enough that they feel like they're getting the same benefits of moving that they do in a studio, but it's not so big that they have to stop, change direction, continue with their move. They can do a lovely, beautiful plie, turn and do an arabesque, come and do an attitude, do a tendu forward, side and back, without having to actually move their bar, change around too often, so they can stay quite fluid in their movement. I think is important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think when you use chairs, when you use your work surfaces for as a bar, what's great about that is that you're actually demonstrating to your clients that they can work out at home. You don't need all this, you don't need to fork out on all this equipment. The back of a chair without wheels will work. And a work surface is absolutely fine. And that's the same with in studio as well. And that's something that, as an instructor, if you're going into a space particularly, and it's difficult sometimes if there's not a bar in a church hall or wherever you are, you can use windowsills to deliver some of your exercises. And it's great actually, because with a ballet bar, we tend to absolutely cling on to that, and we don't actually really think about the posture and the balance quite the same. So we've learned to adapt, and I think that's the key to it, and actually take it as a benefit. So what I want to say, is there anything, I'm going to move on in a minute, is there anything in terms of class planning or anything that you'd like to both share further tonight?
I think it's just a
so keen to talk. I think it's thinking about everything you've just discussed, and also absolutely talking about when you're planning the class, we know we're going to have different abilities coming in. And I heard you both talking about making sure you have your pre-screening. It's going to be very different, having your disclaimers. And when you're coming to the different ability students coming in, you don't want anyone to feel they can't join because they may not have done it before. So it's having a move that you can modify, but you can easily progress also, and you can give them that quick transition whilst they don't feel as though, oh, well, I have to wait until that particular arabesque combination has finished for me to be able to join in. There's always an option, I think, and I think it's more so important now on a virtual basis, if you are inviting in and having students join you who you haven't met previously, that you have that option, because in studio it's a little easier to slow the class down, break down the move. But when you are, as you said, either on a tiny screen and you're focusing really intently, it's going to be harder to really break everything down so specifically that they can see it in such clarity. And you want to make sure that they've got a clear enough, simple enough move that they can modify, but also make it progressive if they need to. So it's just having that at the back of your mind, I think, and knowing that everybody should feel welcome, and nobody should feel as though they have to have been dancing for years in order to do it, because I know that isn't the aim of the or the ethos behind the BalletBeFit classes. It is accessible for everybody. So I think it's important that people are aware of that as well.
Absolutely, because this is the whole BalletBeFit is about a ballet inspired fitness class that you do not have had to do any ballet at all, because we break it down and it is fitness with ballet inspired, and it is for absolutely anybody who wants to enjoy music, movement and get fit at the same time, be that in studio or virtually. It'll be, you know, so absolutely. So Alison, if you just would like to sort of share with us.
Yeah, Bill mentioned flow, and I think that's one of the most important things in both the studio and online, is that the exercises flow, that you're not constantly swapping directions and you're not going from floor to standing, that your exercises flow. So you might start off with a plie, and then you might change position of that plie, and then you might take one leg off the floor with the plie, and sort of a gradual change between exercises. So that's important both for online and for studio, but particularly important online, because you don't want the participant to be having to swap direction and turn away from the screen. So I tend to, when I'm working online, face one direction all the time and work both legs in one direction, and then change the side of the bar, and then work both legs on the other side of the bar, so that I'm not swapping my participant about, and it has a clear flow. Because I think that can really put people off, especially if they're new to the exercise. If there's a lot of changing around in position, that can be confusing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just got a couple of questions here. So I'll ask Adele this one. So if you're doing a 6-week, a little question for you here. If you're doing a structure of a class for, say, a 6-week structure, and you're having new people come in, how do you adapt to that? How do you deal with that in your class planning?
Yeah, so with my class planning, I would always have, I think it's important for anybody who's doing any dance-based movement, because, like, as we say, they may not have had any previous experience, to have some similarity, some continuity of some section of that class. So they're getting used to the same moves every single week. So, for example, if you're starting with your warm-up, to make it similar. So you have your similar basic moves. So the person who's coming in maybe perhaps into week 2, for example, or week 3, they don't feel as though they're way behind, because everybody is going to be repeating the same kind of movements in order to get that movement really ingrained into their body. And then I feel that I would say, I wouldn't ever specify, the people who are just joining us, because that can make people feel uncomfortable, but I would structure it in a way that they are able to take the foundation of a move, as you were saying with a plie. You can stay in a basic plie, you can come down to a grand plie, and just to allow them the option that either stay on the foundation move, the basic move, or you can move on to a slightly more progressive, and clearly give the options at the beginning of the move that you're going to do. So if they haven't done it before, they can watch you a couple of times doing that movement, and then they can see you demonstrating a slightly more progressive movement. And I tend to switch in and out of the different levels as well. So I'll go back to the version, and then I'll show again the progressive version. So whatever level they're at, they can join in. And also, I always say to my class participants, you may have been doing this for the 6 weeks, but today your body just may not feel as it did last week. So it doesn't matter whether you lift your leg as high today as you did last time. You have to just work in the moment you're in and be present in your moment today. And if your leg isn't going to lift like it did before, don't let it, don't force it, just allow it to be in the position it's in. And I think that's important to emphasize for all of them anyway, because I think people like to really push themselves, which I appreciate, but you want them to understand that it's something that is meant to benefit them, not for them to work to the point where they feel discomfort.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my main way, I feel, just to make them feel as though they haven't missed out, and they're not holding people up either, because I wouldn't want for them to feel that way.
No, absolutely. And then I've got a quick question for you, Alison. Have you considered ever, or do you take any of your classes outside, especially, at the moment that's quite British weather, though, a bit difficult. Have you?
No, I haven't actually considered outside. Just due to the fact that you can't guarantee what the floor is going to be like. I think that's my main issue for outside. So no, I haven't actually considered taking it outside. What I have done to make it a bit different online is, because obviously people are using a chair and not a bar, I've brought the chair into the workout. So we might have done a bit of seated exercise, just to mix it up a bit and make it a little bit different. And that's been particularly popular with the older participants because they don't like doing floor work. So using a chair has been brilliant for that because they've got a chance to do a little bit of toning work, but using the chair. So
yeah, definitely. I think seated work, you think about just making sure for older participants, if they're on the chair and even just lifting the leg up slightly and then lowering it back down and thinking about the engagement of the core, that instantly gets it. Just the same as doing the crunches, which that's difficult for them if there's an issue with the hip or whatever, just to do that. And even just to be thinking about where the posture is, and it doesn't even have to be a great height with lifting the leg and seated, but it really does, it can really work. So yeah, for sure, I love seated work.
Yeah, it's been quite nice for the stretches as well, just to get a different stretch in there. So particularly with hamstrings, you always seem to be a stretch for hamstrings, so to get them on a chair is quite nice.
Yes, definitely. So what I'd like to say now is, well, thank you first of all for joining me tonight. And Alison, if you first of all would just like to say where you're teaching your classes and where people can find you and join your virtual, your in studio, if you could just share that with us, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I teach classes in Skipton and Keighley. You can access my classes or details of my classes by going online on Facebook. To my Facebook is Alison Arley Exercise Consultant, or you can look up for Exercise Consultancy. And in Skipton, I teach classes at Skipton Health and Fitness, so my virtual classes are on their web page, and they actually have an on-demand service, so you don't have to log in at a specific time. They are on demand, so you can log in and sign up to a class whenever you want one. And then Keighley, I teach in studio and online as well, but that's Facebook, and it is a live class.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, the details are in the chat box. So anybody who wants to join Alison in Skipton and virtually, all the details are now in the chat box. And you can also go to the BalletBeFit website, and if you go to find a class, you can actually look at a map and locate an instructor. So Alison, thank you so much. Adele, if you'd like to just tell the guys out there where you teach and when you teach, and that'd be great.
Thank you. Yeah, so I teach in the Hampton Court area, Thames Ditton area in Surrey. So it's not far from London. Kingston probably is one of the closest towns that most people might be aware of. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook. And my link is Pure Body by Adele. And my website is the same. It's purebodybyadele.co.uk. And I'm teaching my virtual classes. And you can find out information by looking on my website link as well. And when we are finally back in studio, which will be from September for the studio that I'm working in, then we'll be able to find me in a class in the Old Cranleon Club in Thames Ditton, which is in Surrey. So you can find me there, and again on the Find a Coach through the website.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure, and you've really provided some really insightful tips and for us in terms of how you plan your classes, how you deliver the classes, and also your experiences in these times. So thank you ever so much, and I'm sure I'll be chatting with you both very soon. So I'm going to say bye now, and thank you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, lovely to see you too. Thank you. See you. Bye. Take care. Bye. Okay, so just again, an absolute massive thank you to Alison and Adele there for joining us tonight. So before we wrap up, each month, what I really want to give you is a practical takeaway that you can implement right now. So what we've been talking about tonight is we've been talking about class planning. So we're going to take that a little bit further. I'd like to think that you would consider about thinking about your planning of your day. and about planning your morning and really setting everything up so you've got that success during the day and success for yourself in your business. Because what we do is we tend to, and we can feel and run around feeling stressed about everything that we've got to accomplish, that we've got to do. So what I'd really like you to think about doing is setting aside some time in the morning to really get your mindset right and start getting just set up and prepared for the day. And if you have to, you might not like it, perhaps consider getting up just slightly earlier every day. And in Hal Elrod's book, which is The Miracle Morning, he actually recommends that you spend 10 minutes on 6 important activities, which are meditation, which is journaling, reading, affirmations, visualization, and exercise. Now, if an hour isn't really realistic for you, what you can do is you can really start small. So what you can do is you can start spending 5 minutes, say, in meditation and 10 minutes writing down your most important goals and starting your day on a positive note. It really can do wonders for your mindset and your stress levels. So that will really help as you go about your day. So some of my favorite activities and how I start my day is I start my day with meditation. And research really says that meditation is really it's good for both our mental and our physical health. Just by sitting quietly for 5 minutes really can reduce stress, and it helps your attention and focus. So it helps improve decision making, and it helps in terms of problem solving as well. So if you're a little new to meditation, please don't let it scare you. Simply just set a timer, say on your phone, for 5 minutes and just sit quietly. Focus on your breath and try to really lengthen your inhaling and lengthen exhaling as well. And when you notice your mind wandering, and it will, just gently bring your breath back again and just refocus. And over time, what you'll find is it will become easier for you to actually sit in stillness for longer periods. And it really does just help to set you up. It sets me up for the day. It helps me focus. It actually helps me align with the goals and what I want to achieve for the day. And that brings me on to the next thing that I like to do is I like to set an intention for the day. So what I like to do is I like to really think about what I want to achieve each day. And I visualize that going so smoothly and going really working for me and going perfectly. So focus on your attention and really don't let unessential tasks distract you. Focus on what you want to achieve, what your goal is for the day, what your intention is, and that really will help you reach a successful outcome. So I like to do meditation with setting an intention for the day, which is always for me, this is going to be an absolutely amazing day. I'm going to have a good day, and that really helps me remove any negative thoughts that I might have. So you can do that looking in a mirror, and it really does work. So that's what I'd like you to take away. And also what I'd like you to take away is gratitude. Every morning, just write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And this really can help transform your mindset. It can really help improve your health because you're actually thinking about what's good. You're actually thinking about what you're grateful for. And at the end of the day, just return to your journal and just write down what things went well too, and keep that up. So the takeaway for today is I'd like you to do meditation, set a goal, set an intention for the day, do an affirmation. This is going to be an amazing day. Everything is going to be great. Write down 3 things that you are grateful for, and then at the end of the day, write down things that actually went well. And by doing this, you're really going to find that you are more focused, you are more energized, and everything is just going to feel that you've got more clarity with what you do. So that's me finished. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on Rachel Talks Technique, episode 2, class planning. What you can do is, don't forget to share this, like this, subscribe. This will be going up onto the YouTube channel, so you can always see it again. And I hope you join us next time for our next episode, episode 3, which will be on the 27th of August at 7 p.m. British summertime, where I'm actually going to talk about effective ways to deliver a fitness class. So it really is a good night from me and a good night from BalletBeFit, and thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate you. So thank you so much. So thanks, Alison. Thanks, Adele. Thanks, everybody. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you real soon. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Rachel Talks Technique. Be sure to visit balletbefit.co.uk to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Join us next time for more tips and techniques. Bye for now.